Today we're going to work on some system solving them. We're going to look at the first one graphically just to get a feel of what's going on, and then we'll go ahead and solve algebraically. So to start with, we can decide that the top one here is an ellipse. To put it in the right form, we would divide everyone by 400. So you have x squared over 400 plus y squared over 100, and that equals 1. You put a center right at 0, 0. The square root of 400 is 20. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 is right out here and right over here. The square root of 100 is 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So there's the ellipse. And then the line we would have first. Subtract the x over, so negative 2y equals negative x plus 28. And then divide by negative 2. And so I will have y equals 1/2 x minus 14. Okay, so then we were back over here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 would be right here. And then we're going to be going up 1 over 2. So up 1 is half of one of these over 2 right there. Up 1 over 2, 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 up 1 over 2. So there could be a spot. And then we go up 1. Whoopsies, that's right there. Up 1 over 2. Okay, so we can see how those are going to connect somewhere over in that region. So now we're going to go about and look at this algebraically and find the exact answer as opposed to just an approximation. The first thing I'm going to do is solve this for x by adding the 2y over. So I'll have 2y plus 28. And then I'm going to use substitution, that this x right here is just like that x right there. So I'm going to have x, right? We have that right there. Plug in the 2y plus 28. And that whole thing is squared. Plus 4y squared equals the 400. I'm going to write this out as two binomials. And then I'm going to prepare to FOIL that, or double distribute. Sounds much fancier. So we'll have 4y squared plus 112y plus 784 plus the 4y squared equals 400. Combine like terms, I'm going to get 8y squared plus 112y. Subtract the 400 over and you get plus 384 equals 0. So now I have a nice trinomial, and just based on the size of it, I don't really want to deal with it, so I'm going to go the quick route and do the quadratic. Make sure you note to yourself that your variable right now is y, so you say y equals negative 112 plus or minus the square root of 112 squared minus 4 times 8 times 384 all over 2 times 8. That'll simplify to negative 112 plus or minus radical 256 over 16. Negative 112 plus or minus 16 over 16 And this now separates. Negative 112 plus 16 is going to be negative 96 over 16. And negative 112 minus 16 is going to be negative 128 divided by 16. So I have y equals negative 6 and y equals negative 8. So there are the two y values that we have, negative 6, negative 8. And then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to use the simple one, use the nice linear. X minus 2y equals 28. So I have x minus, plug in the negative 6. And I'll have x plus 12 equals 28. Subtract the 12, x equals 16. Play the game again, right over here. X minus 2y equals 28. Now we're going to plug in the negative 8. So I have x plus 16 equals 28. Subtract the 16 and x equals 12. So when when y equals negative 6, x equals 16. And when y equals negative 8, x equals 12. So there we can see much more precise answers when we do it algebraically. So let's look at another one right now. This one you can see is a hyperbola and another linear. What I'm going to do is just go ahead, solve this for x. So x equals y plus 3. This x is going to go right in there. So you'll have y squared. Notice the minus sign. Y plus 3. Make sure you're squaring. Equals 96. So the hardest part of these is just keeping track of all the different negatives and positives. So first thing I'm going to do is double distribute, making sure I have a parentheses there, because I'll have to deal with the negative next. So I have y squared plus 6y plus 9 equals 96. And then y squared minus y squared minus 6y minus 9. Distribute that negative all the way through. The y squareds cross out, and you have negative 6y minus 9 equals 96. So it just took out that squared power. And we're going to add the 9 over, and we'll have negative 6y equals 102. Divide by that negative 6, and y is negative 17. So now this one only has one y value. So I'm only going to have 1 point here. When I plug that negative 17 in, whoopsies, then I'm going to have x plus 17 equals 3, so x equals negative 14. So negative 14, negative 17. There's our point for that one. Here is another one. You can see we have a linear and a hyperbola for this one. So you'll want to go through and decide what you think is going to be easiest. For me, I think getting y by itself will be best. So we'll have y equals negative 2x minus 14. I'm going to plug into this. So I'll have x times negative 2x minus 14 equals 24. Distribute the x. And then what I'm going to do is bring these two negative terms to the other side. I'm going to add them over. So I'll have 2x squared plus 14x plus 24 equals 0. To go and solve that, I'm going to divide by 2, and I will have x squared plus 7x plus 12. This one factors very nicely, I think. So you'll have x and x, 3 and 4. And you will do plus and plus. So x equals -3, x equals -4. Okay, now that you have the x values, you can go back in. X, y equals 24. It's really whatever one you want to use. For me, the hyperbola looks easier at this point. So -3y equals 24. Y equals -8. 4y equals 24. Y equals 6. So my points are -3, -8, and 4, 6. Okay, so this number 4 is your first you try. You're going to go through, solve it however you would like. I'm going to give you the hints that you are going to end up with some imaginary answers, so those will obviously get rejected. And then you're going to want to be looking for, did I get -3/2, 2, and -3/2, -2. So go ahead, pause the video, try that. Number 5 is going to be a you try. I just want to get you guys started that I think the easiest way to deal with this one is to go ahead, divide by x here. So you have y equals 24/x. You're then going to plug that in over here. So 24/x quantity squared minus x squared equals 64. So then you have 576/x squared minus x squared equals 64. To get rid of the fractions, you're going to multiply everybody by x squared. So you get 576 minus x to the 4th equals 64x squared. And I'm going to let you go from there. I just wanted to get you through that step. Okay? Last one we're going to talk about here. This one, a lot of squareds. So I take the easiest one I can see and I say, okay, y squared equals 16 minus x squared. Plugging that into the other function, 9x squared plus 64 minus 4x squared equals 36. Combine like terms, subtract the 64 over. You can see already what's going to happen here. If I have to take the square root of a negative number, I'm going to get imaginary answers, and that is not going to give me any points, okay? So that is just another happens. Some of them won't have any points at all. And then one more you try, okay? You're going to pause the video, and you're going to find out you have the point radical 3, 1, radical 3, -1, negative radical 3, 1, and negative radical 3, -1. Have a great night.